we were using education as a tool for liberation, but it was the whole idea of educating people to become leaders so they'd assume the responsibility, self-help, self-reliance, and self-determination to fight for better housing, better education, better health care, better mental health care, better, dealing with youth problems, etc. There were no black taxi drivers. There were no black buses, no black drivers, no black there was no black doctors, nurses. There were no black members of the city council, no black policemen. This didn't exist, and particularly in authority. No black bell telephone. You couldn't go into a bank and find a black person. 1950s, forget it. No black teachers, no black administrators. So the kids said, look, we're tired of that. We want black teachers, they demand. We want black administrators, we want black principals, we want black supervisors. They want black, right? So what you remember is what they were up against. When you talk about the 1967 movement, we preceded that by 12 years. 1955, we were creating a grassroots network across the city to deal with all these social issues. So it became very apparent that when the students rose up and challenged the system and came to us, me, to ask for help in terms of getting 25 demands met, we had been training them all along. So now we just upgraded the training. We had them do mini walkouts before the major one took place, so they had practice. We were planners. We created a platform that we would use in future years. So 12 years later, when students come to us and say they're oppressing us, they won't let us wear our hair natural. They won't let us wear dashikis. They won't recognize our African names. We're getting suspended for natural hair. We're getting suspended for African clothes and jewelry. We're getting suspended for not staying out for the Pledge of Allegiance. I mean, Kaepernick and these guys are 50 years later, right? We were doing that 50 years ago, okay? And so it was, and I said, you have to take a look at what was going on in the environment. We were trying hard to safeguard them. They knew that there was a good likelihood they might get locked up, but they were ready for it. They were ready for it. These kids were tough, right? We didn't want that to happen, and that's why of the 50,000 children that left out of the schools, we had people at the schools, the leadership had to make sure there were sweepers. I said, make sure the sweepers sweep the halls and sweep the classrooms and get the buildings empty. Even the Catholic schools, black kids in Catholic schools walked out, okay? I said, we don't want you to come downtown to the school district. We had planned it. 50,000 kids emerging down in the center of the city would be a nightmare. It wasn't a flash mob, but it would have become one, okay? So we didn't even want the 5,000 that showed up to come down. We just wanted 100, 500 people to just have a presence in support of the leaders upstairs. But they did that on their own, okay? And then the rest was history. They became the largest student strike in the history of America. And there's never been one as large or larger since, ever. After 2 hours, from 10 o'clock a.m. on November 17, 1967, to 12 noon, after negotiating, getting those 25 demands, the kids, we had 25 children upstairs negotiating. We had 12 adults supporting them. At 12 noon, it turned into a police riot because 5,000 of the children, 50,000 walked out of the schools and went home. 5,000 showed up at the school district and surrounded the building. The police, without any hint no request from us or from the school district, showed up over 100 or more policemen. Brand new, untrained people. These children became their fodder. So at 12 noon, they were instructed to attack them after they had successfully gotten their demands and were ready to go home. So I don't even want you to remember the police riot. I was arrested, I was charged with a conspiracy, riot, mayhem, assault and battery, disorderly conduct, cursing. They threw the book at me. So when I went into the jail, the next morning, they took me that night. The next morning, we were going down to breakfast. And when I went into the mess hall, over 1,000 men, black and white, jumped to their feet, unannounced, right? Not almost on cue, and did the Black Power salute, right? Well, they took my little black self out of that mess hall as quick as they could get me out of there. So I said, I want you to remember that. Don't remember the police abuse. They beat a lot of our children. They beat my babies, okay? And I can never forgive them for that. But I don't want you, what I want you to remember, that these babies were heroes and heroines. These were middle school kids, 12 and 13 years old. These were high school kids, 16 and 17 years old. These were defenseless kids. And I extolled them to fight back. And they started fighting back, right? And the organizers, when they saw that happen, they ran out of the building and they got into the fight. I won't be satisfied until there is a historic marker at 22nd and Parkway in commemorating these children. I will not stop until that takes place. The other thing is, we were fighting for community control of schools in the 1950s and 60s. The creation of the SRC took that away from us and created the control with a state body. The charter schools were a part of the community control because we created independent community-based neighborhood charter schools. And the ones that were set up as independent local ones, we support. But then what happened was the SRC and the district, through their infinite wisdom, under even the prior superintendent, they decided to give some of the charter schools public schools. That's not a charter school, and then they call them charter schools. You have to stop that. I think the next thing is what you have to do is you have to take a look at Philadelphia School District. It has 215 schools. It used to have 215,000 students. It has about 150,000. Charter has about 50,000 students. You need to decentralize the entire district. Turn it into 12 to 20 different smaller districts with no more than 10 or 12 schools per district. Have them run by school administrators who report to a superintendent, but they have autonomy at the local level. This is critical. That's the next battle.